This is episode 3 of the Rallyman GT project, so sit back and enjoy because I'm Pete, and this is Board Game Refab. Unfortunately, I made a rookie YouTube mistake when filming this episode. My old overhead rig does not allow me to see what I'm recording while I'm doing it, and so I just have to trust that it's good footage until I upload it and can double check. As you'll see, once I uploaded it, I really just got great shots of the back of my head. Good news is I got a new camera rig, and you'll see some of the great footage that we're going to get going forward, so you just have to bear with us through this episode. Anything that we missed at the beginning with that crummy footage, we'll circle back and cover it in another episode. So with that all out of the way, let's get to it. I built this guardrail behind my head in that crummy footage, so I'll be sure to cover how to do that in a later episode. But now it's time for paint. We're going to do a black base coat and then light gray over it. This paint needs to be extra thin so that it doesn't clog the mesh that we use for the fencing. The grandstand needs to pop on the board, so we're going to paint it with some vibrant colors. Before we add those bright pops, we need a clean white base coat to help even out the white Plasticard. The red paint was done very meticulously behind my head when I recorded it, but the new rig came just before I started the blue paint. From here on out, we'll get better shots. Go nice and slow here, and then I blasted it with a hairdryer to speed up the drying time in between coats. I decided to paint this grandstand to match the French flag as a nod to the designer of this board game, Jean-Christophe Bouvier. He's the super talented designer of this game that is very involved in the Rallyman community, and you may even seen him down in the comments on some of these episodes. This is where we start to get some of the fun details on the actual tile. For the road stripes, I used a striping paint pen from Woodland Scenics. The only thing to really point out on this is go slow, but not too slow. I totally get it that that's a weird thing to say, but basically don't linger because that paint tends to melt the foam just a little bit. I didn't need a super clean line here because the irregularities add realism to the whole project. When I test fitted those guardrails, they just looked too monochrome. The tiles was starting to look like a blob of grays, so we decided to lighten them up and a little bit of highlight to the project. This is another great example of how paint can be easily changed and corrected to give a different feel to the whole project. Here we're going to build and paint the caution signs. This tile needed a red danger triangle. For this, I just cut it from the Plasticard, and I decided that the signs should all fit within a ½ inch square, so that they all match in size throughout the board. Cut out to that size and then sand or file to get the triangle just about even. Once it's all cut out, you glue it to a 2x2mm square rod. After it dries, it's ready for paint. Prior to painting, make sure you sand the surface just a little bit to help with the adhesion. I use the hairdryer again between coats to speed up that drying time. And here I'm going to bring back those tents I made in episode 2. I was experimenting with a new mixing technique, and I'll let you know, it was a disaster. Don't use a paint cup for an airbrush. I got some new eyedropper bottles to use with the paint, and they worked great. I have an ever-growing list of tips and tricks like this that I've learned on these projects, and I was wondering if you all would be interested in mini episodes that highlight some of those tips. Let me know down in the comments if that's something that would interest you. Now we get to put it all together. First, we're going to flex those fences to the final shape and then mark the tile for the holes. I use an Xacto blade to start the hole to prevent it from drifting. I just started with the small bit and then worked up to the size I needed. I used the bits with my hand because I was worried about damaging the foam, but this took a long time. So in the next episode, you'll see that I switched to the cordless drill. To fix them in place, I used a little dab of super glue. Make sure you work fast with this because that super glue dries really quick on this material. There we have it. The first 3 tiles are ready for the table. I think it's pretty clear that going forward we're going to get some great shots with the new camera rig, and I'm really excited about what we're capable of now. If you like what you saw, don't forget to like and comment down below. Also, subscribe, follow us on social media, all the good stuff. Because that's all I have for now, because I'm Pete, and this was Board Game Refab.